Do you have recommendations on how the Cuyahoga County government can be altered, made better? Perhaps go away from the three commissioner type of structure and maybe a little more like the Summit County type of organization, as well as having appointed specialty directors such as the engineer, the auditor, and treasurer, and so on, rather than have each of these be elected?
Yes, there are plans. The Commission on Government Reform gave us a plan that looks similar to that. Senator Tim Grindell in the Senate last year shopped a plan that would be different from that, but not wasn't objectionable in any way. The plans are there. It's the will, I think, that lacks.
Can you detail that?
Look, I will tell you that people were kind. They said nice things to me. They said that they were for reform, and they put things on paper, and this 9-member commission worked hard to try to come to some consensus. But it was not, but no one, look, I thought Tim Hagan did the right thing when he came out and said that we needed to reform county government. But that kind of went away. He got a little pressure. I know I'm not going to speak for the commissioner. I don't know everything that goes on and why, but we need someone in every county that wants to see this happen step up and say, this, and lead people to understand the possibilities in the future that this provides and the consequences of failure. And the thing of it is that political pressure begins to mount. People feel the pinch, and they don't do it. But the ideas are there. This commission came up with one. I don't want to dictate to Cuyahoga County from Columbus how they're supposed to reform themselves. But look, without being too personal here, I don't think you need to look too far and to see that there's something wrong that needs to be changed. And there are lots of ways you can do it.
Mr. Husted, I'd like to use your own career experience to pose a cultural question. You have been forced by term limits to stop being a member of the House. You were fortunate and probably good at what you did, and you were elected to the Senate, so you're able to stay in office. And you've also spoken about the importance of champions. Clearly, ideas move when people move them. So I ask you a fairly broad question. One of the implications of term limits is that a long-term commitment to electoral office is kind of a bad thing. And yet, the experience of you and other people suggests that if you don't have a long-term commitment, you don't build up expertise. So I ask if you have a sense of whether or not there's any change in this cultural wariness about people who make a career commitment, a long-term commitment to electoral office. Is that, as you experience it today, something which is viewed as a bad thing? Or are people maybe becoming more open to viewing it as a good thing?
Well, every once in a while, that's one of those questions where every once in a while the public decides that it's time for a change, and they send the people that have been there out. And a lot of times they're pretty happy with things, and they leave the people in place. I mean, it really, in a democracy, I believe that it works out pretty well. I know it's not popular to talk about oneself in terms of a career politician, and frankly, I think that term limits can both be a good and a bad thing. But I will tell you that I don't think that I'll just specifically to term limits. We get just as many talented people that come in as were there before. It's not about talent. Plenty of talented, intelligent people run for office. The question I think that we have in Ohio is that with the high turnover rate, there's not a lot of continuity of thought. And it's hard from one General Assembly to the next to advance an issue if it's a big issue. And perhaps an extension of them could benefit. But I don't think that the idea the idea of someone serving in public office for a long time is not a good or a bad thing. It's when people get there who covet the job, who abuse the power. Rod Blagojevich hadn't been governor of Illinois very long, but he abused the power and was sent home yesterday. And you have. You know, it comes down to people. It comes down to good people that are willing to, you know, make a commitment to trying to change things. You can do that as a member of the not-for-profit community. You can do it as a member of the private sector. You can do it in public service. There's lots of ways to be able to do that. And I don't think that our system prevents it from happening. And I don't think that if we went away from term limits that would solve the problem, or if we continued term limits that we would create a greater problem.
Well, hello. I was hoping that you would come back to the subject of reforming county government again.
Sure.
And specifically, my question is, are you aware of any movement now in this session of the General Assembly to revive the plan that was passed by the Senate, not passed, or passed by the House, not passed by the Senate, a rival plan, but there was never any time for a conference committee? Are you aware of any motion to bring that back, to revive it? And a second question, do you know of any other counties in the state of Ohio that are also trying to reshape themselves? We never hear about the efforts elsewhere.
I believe that county government reform will be revisited. State government reform is on the table. County government reform will be on the table. I imagine that that either or both of those plans. My position was on it. Pass them both. Give Cuyahoga, the citizens of Cuyahoga County, the opportunity to choose either one of them. Why do we have to limit the choice to one form or another form? Give them the authority in the revised code to do either plan. And that's what I hope that we will do in this General Assembly. And I believe that there will be another opportunity to do this in the coming months. You know, in other communities, I think it's happening differently in other communities. I think what's happening is that there's a conversation in a lot of other places about what can we do to work together as local governments rather than changing perhaps the identity. I think it's working on the identifying tax sharing alternatives. It's working through consolidation of transportation districts or economic development efforts and things like that. So I think that the conversation in a lot of other areas are focused on service mergers and consolidations rather than the entity of government itself, and which is just as fine a way, in my opinion, to do it as to do it at the county level. But each county is different. Cuyahoga County is different than a smaller rural county, and that's the reason I think that we need to have the flexibility for people to innovate at the local level on these reforms according to what the culture and the political opportunities are in their respective counties.